AMN DriveTime is sponsored by Aishin, your trusted and reliable source for aftermarket automotive components and technology. Visit AishinAftermarket.com for more information.
Shane, welcome to AMN DriveTime, sponsored by our great friends at Aishin.
Bill, it is great to be here again. It's been 18 months, I think.
It's been 18 months, you got it right.
And last time you were kind enough to have me on the show, we talked a little bit about some of the marketing activities we're doing, and we're behind the Penske organization, Ryan Blaney, number 12 car. Small token of appreciation.
Oh, wow.
And by the way, a little plug for what we're doing on the marketing side. We've got the 2025 Ryan Blaney 12 car.
Oh, wow.
So from me to you, hopefully that can find a spot on your mantle, and great to be part of the show today.
It will for sure. Thank you so much. What a great gift.
Yeah. So
Appreciate it.
Off we go.
So for the benefit of our audience, we are in Greater Detroit at Vision 2026. And you are the keynote speaker tomorrow afternoon.
And yet I'm here first.
And yet here you are first. Well, we're glad to have you. So Shane, during our first drive time, as you mentioned, it was 18 months ago at Apex 2020, I guess that had been 2024. When we were together, where you were up on stage with 3 other CEOs doing your thing. You highlighted the importance of Advance's blended box. The strategy serving both DIY and professional customers. Where does the strategy stand today, and how are you measuring the success?
Yeah, it is great to be back here, and we can actually talk about things that occurred then and what's transpired since.
Great.
And the first thing is the blended box remains a prominent part of what we're doing as an organization. We further refined it into what we call 3 strategic pillars. And I'm going to use sort of simple words to denote what they are, and we can unpack each. But right parts, right place, with the right service. And so think about a blended box serving a pro and DIY customer, offering those 3 tenets in its value proposition. Right parts feels pretty intuitive, but as I've come to learn what goes on in the industry, number one question, pro or DIY, do you have the part? Do you have it? And that really trumps all others. Second question is, when can I get it? And you could think about that as coming in what we offer for the service side. And then price comes into it as a tertiary question. But as we think about doing the right parts and having that 3-pillar strategy, we've made huge progress since I've last been here. And so let's talk about it. First thing, we announced earnings in February of this year. For the first time in 4 years, we had a positive comparable store sales number for the year.
Congratulations.
Big news. And that's important when you're making significant changes, that you can demonstrate growth and, by the way, profitability. We also had positive profitability at 2.5% operating income. That was big news. By the way, that's the first time in 6 years that the company has actually accomplished what it said it was going to do during a year. Unfortunately, we previously depicted this is what we think we're going to do, and then had numbers fall short of that. So great to say this is what our year is going to look like. Here's our range for sales and earnings, and to hit those numbers. That is a big part of improving our say-do ratio. Really important for investors, for customers, for everybody in the industry to know that we're building our credibility one order at a time in terms of this is what we're going to do, and then making that a reality. So let's talk about some of the things that we said we were going to do, many of which discussed on your show, and what's transpired. So the first thing is we improved our assortment. So we've added 100,000 SKUs into the assortment. Back to that right parts component, first question, do you have it? We found there were too many instances where we didn't have the part. So adding 100,000 SKUs into the assortment, super helpful now to be able to say yes to our customers. Second thing, we completed most of our DC consolidation. So huge progress here. When I got to the company, we had 50 DCs, 12 were Worldpac. That left us with 38. We went from 38 to 28, and we've now gone from 28 down to 16. So DC consolidations are major endeavors. Talking about moving inventory, talking about reassigning stores, talking about assigning transportation routes, all difficult moves. So now we sit at 16 DCs. We'll close one more to bring us to 15. I think that's where you'll see our network map out at, with 15 large DCs. That's been a big one. Next, we introduced a brand new node, the Market Hub. And this is critical because what we're seeing is that there's an increase in the number of vehicles on the road, and there's an expectation of service from customers that they can get more parts in a shorter span of time. And so we were typically just relying on the store or the distribution center. Now we have this Market Hub. This node can offer same-day service to a range of stores that previously we couldn't do. We didn't have any of those. We closed the year last year with 33, and we've indicated that we'll build 10 to 15 more this year. So there's just a couple of examples. I'll add two quick ones, and we can go through more as we talk. Our new store opening capability, we've brought that online in a way that it didn't exist before. And we've depicted that we want to open 100 new stores between this year and next year. And by the way, that means in a good location with the right inventory and fixtures and grand opening plan, really bringing rigor to that in a way that we hadn't in the past. And then lastly, we're really excited that we now have our own private brand of oil, Argos. You'll also see it in other fluid products, where previously we've been relying on somebody else. And so we don't have to pay royalties, and now we have our own brand, and that we've been getting great feedback. So there's just a few things there, and then I'll give you two more that we're looking at as we go forward. The first is speed of delivery, and we've knocked 10 minutes off in terms of how quickly we get product to our pro customers. And then last, listening to our customers, is doing Net Promoter Score analysis at each of our locations so we can help understand exactly how customers view us. So there's a whole list of things, but since 18 months, we have been at it, hard at it, and what was originally called a turnaround, I'm now rephrasing as a comeback. We're making that progress with the uptick to positive comp and positive profitability. We're off and running.
Shane, you haven't taken a lot of vacation in the last 18 months, have you?
No, I don't take a lot, but it's because our customers and our team members, lots to do, and it's worth doing.
Congratulations on all that.
Yeah, thank you.
So you mentioned the value of employee feedback during visits to advanced stores, and customer feedback when you're visiting shops. The guy's throwing away the box, right? So provide an example of how that feedback shapes decisions and processes for you guys.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It starts strategically, and it migrates its way tactically. So let's talk a little of each. Strategically, we rolled out the inverted pyramid. And something I saw in the US Army, something I saw at another company that I worked at, but essentially that the culture of the company focuses on the customer being first, and then the field that services the customer coming close behind it. And it sounds like it's just rhetoric. And you would say, well, lots of companies articulate that the customer comes first, but you'd be surprised the degree to which activities in a headquarters don't reflect that. And good, well-intended functional areas don't bring about plans that truly help the customer with what they're trying to do. Remember those three key questions. Do you have it? When can I get it? And how much does it cost? If you're not thinking about how we get better in those areas, then we should think about what the activity is really adding for the company. So that inverted pyramid is really important. Now let me go tactical. So we just wrapped up the month of March, March Madness. In that month, I saw team members in Virginia, the Carolinas, New York City, Florida, Puerto Rico, out in stores and with customers all the time, because they will give you the front line from a team member perspective. They'll give you unvarnished feedback, and a customer certainly will as well. They'll tell you exactly what's working and what's not. And so one of the things we heard is, you're not investing in your stores. So we spent $90 million since we've last chatted in our stores, touching 1,600 stores. Paint, parking lot, fixtures, lighting, signage, HVAC, all of these areas where the environment for the team member wasn't a great place to work, the environment from a customer's perspective wasn't welcoming. And so we made those changes. By the way, we're going to hit 1,000 stores this year in terms of making improvements. So you see two things going on here. We're opening new stores in great locations with all the things they need, and we're fixing our old stores, making the environment welcoming for our team member and for customers. By the way, we did the same as we looked at our delivery fleet. Where do we have our vehicles? Are they being used appropriately? Where are there stores who are desperate for one more delivery vehicle to be able to help lower that time to serve for customers? Another example of where we went ahead and said, hey, let's get the vehicles to the right place. All of these activities are geared towards doing better for the customer based on what they told us. And so really excited by that. Another thing worth mentioning for the DIY customer is we rejuvenated our awards program. So we now call it Advanced Rewards. And we heard from customers and I'll give you one example of where they didn't like the old system. You could spend money with us and earn a $5 coupon. And maybe you spent some incremental dollars and you got another $5 coupon. We wouldn't let you combine the two coupons and save $10 on your next purchase. We'd say, oh, you could save $5 today. Come back again next time and you could save $5. So people were furious with that. They said, I've earned this money from you and now you're making it hard for us to put it to use. So we made changes like that. We were paying money for a fuel rewards component that people didn't value. People weren't saying, gosh, I shop at Advance because I can save 10 cents at the pump down the line. So we put the oomph in the program towards getting you recognized in terms of what you spend with us and getting you value back for that. And that's been a huge lift. So there's some examples strategically, inverted pyramid, tactically being out in the field, listening to customers, and then improving the things that they value, and most importantly, making that store environment a good one. All things going on.
So Shane, when you are at a shop talking to the pro technician, are they pretty candid with you?
Absolutely.
Do they just talk right up and, hey, this is the way it is?
So if you think about, and you've been in this industry, I think last time you were at 36 years, so you're going to be, yep.
Closing in on 40.
Closing in on 40. If you're running Babcock's Automotive and you got 3 bays and 3 techs and somebody helping you with the books, your entire livelihood is steeped in how this shop performs. So the last thing you're going to do is dance around with, you think the rotor pricing's too high, or you're having you want battery delivery to be faster, or whatever it is, you want to make sure you got multi-packs on coils. You're going to tell me exactly what we're doing well and exactly where we're not getting it right. And I think that's great. And we welcome that feedback. And that's part of that inverted pyramid where we're listening to the customer, and I think this goes certainly in automotive with the example we were just talking through. I would say it goes in other industries too. It is hard to be with and listen to customers when they're going to give you feedback that you don't want to hear. Yeah. It's much easier to just stay within the cohort of your own company. And so that's why I particularly enjoy going to the customers, because they don't need to filter what they're telling me, especially when their wallet is impacted immediately by the decisions they're making in the business. It's also, by the way, why they also look to us for solutions. And I think about things, whether it's the credit we're providing, the delivery, the quality of the products, but also the capabilities, the advice of our outside sales team members. We call them CAMs, and our programs like TechNet, where we just boosted the reimbursement rate for labor, for warranty work, and also the ability to provide a warranty where you can fix a car in Florida and the guy or gal can break down in South Carolina, and you can know that car is going to be fixed because they're part of the TechNet program. So lots of ancillary capabilities that pro customers who wouldn't have the resources say, hey, that's important to me and I appreciate it.
They're not giving you any candy-coated version.
No, just like you wouldn't either. And I think, by the way, that's one of the things I like about the auto industry, right? This is a business, people fixing cars, people driving cars, car enthusiasts. I think, there's a lot of camaraderie, which I've come to really enjoy. There is. But there's also, it's a very honest and frank line of work, and I enjoy that too.
So as Advance balances rapid store growth, you said up to 100 new stores annually, right? Mm-hmm. And you kind of touch on this. With distribution center consolidation, what role are the market hubs? You touched on it, but what role are they playing in elevating service and operational efficiency?
Yeah, great question. And let's go deep on the market hub. So we didn't have them.
Right.
So if you were ordering parts from Advance, we'd have 20,000 SKUs in a store. And if the store didn't have it, we were going to have to pull it out of the DC, which means you're either waiting for replenishment, and then we have a program called PDQ where we can push parts more individually out of a DC. It's expensive, it's time consuming, and nothing beats having the part in the market. So we realized we were missing a node that would have more parts closer to the customer. So we said, hey, let's do these market hubs. Now, store has 20,000 SKUs. Market hub has 75 to 85,000 SKUs. And the goal is they can get to a store same day, often multiple times a day. So think about a cohort of stores, 50 plus stores being supported by a market hub where you've got a car and a lift and you need a part and we can now get it to you. Whereas in the past we'd say, ooh, we got to see if we could pull it out of the DC. So we didn't have any of them. We start opening them and what do we see? We see sales lift and we see positive feedback from customers. Hey, it's great that I can get that drive axle from you that in the past wouldn't have been in my local store. And by the way, think about the complexity and number of cars on the road, right? Yeah. That's only going up. And so to be able to service those customers same day, really, really making a difference. So we started with none. We're now at 33. We'll add 10 to 15 this year. We've put out publicly that we'll do 60 and then review what we do from there. Where could we add more potentially, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But so far, we really, really like what they're doing, and the feedback internally, externally, all very positive.
What's the goal to get a part delivered? What time? How quickly would ideally?
40 minutes.
40 minutes?
Yeah, so I think if you're 40 minutes or under, that constitutes good service from a customer. And here's how I think about that. Both feedback from we have large national account customers who can provide that feedback to us. They measure it, we measure it too, but they've told us, hey, you guys are right where you need to be when we're at that 40-minute threshold. A little below is helpful too. And so that's important. The second thing is just go back to a tactical example of a job. I'm looking at this job here. Maybe you need a new starter. I've identified that as the issue. I've got to take the old starter off. I've got Mr. and Mrs. Jones in the lobby. I've told them, hey, why don't you grab lunch? It's going to take me a couple hours to do this. So if we can get the part to them in 40 minutes, that's about the time they've got the old part off. They're ready to put the new part on. That generally fits within the time frame that pro customers find to be acceptable.
What about the whole first call thing?
I think that's important. Do
you guys think a lot about that? I mean,
sure do. Yep. So we have our new leader running pro, a guy named Anthony Sarlanis. He has been in the auto industry his whole life. He ran his family's garage out on Long Island, and he's been with us now for 15 years. He's had every position you can have in the pro universe. He's been a CAM, he's been a sales manager, he's run a geography. He actually came over on the operations side and was an RVP, now leads pro. So deeply steeped in how the industry works. And so that's helpful.
And like having the parts is pretty important, because if they don't think you got the part, they're probably not calling you first. If they're making an assumption.
Absolutely how the industry works. Do you have it, yes or no? The more you say yes, the more likely you are to be first call. When you can't say yes, then you go down to be second or third call.
Yeah.
And so we see that with Main Street most prevalently. And back to running Babcock's automotive, right? You got your 3 bays. Who are you calling first? So we are working to be first call with as many of our customers as we can. Right. And we have a huge cohort where we are, and we have others where we're not. And when you are first call, a couple of things happen. First is you're commonly getting calls for regular parts that you have in stock. And by the way, you're going to get density of delivery, because I've got my 3 cars, you got your 3 bays, I got 3 cars on the lift, this one needs this, this, and this. I'm going to call my first call player to get it. When you're not first call, you're getting the call because the first call guy didn't get it. Yes. So by nature, you're already pushing the bounds of where traditional availability is. So you've got to hustle a little more because, that's a little more of an obscure part relative to what the first call is. Yeah. By the way, we're happy to do that hustle.
Of course.
And we'll absolutely do that. And so we want to move up the call list. So here's one of the good things about the industry. There's so many cars and so many parts that nobody will have them all. Nobody has all the parts. So that means, and I liken it to when I was a kid playing Little League, the rules were when I was a kid, you get 2 innings and 1 at bat. No matter how good or bad you were, you're going to get an at bat. And so in the automotive industry, you're always going to get a call from a customer because no one's going to have all of the parts. And so we view that as our chance to get in the ring. And we will go and find that part for that customer so that they go, oh, wow. Hey, good job, Advance Auto Parts. They went and got that part and tracked it down for me. And so you need to do that again and again, and you move up the call list. And then what you do is what you add on top of that. We talked about our pro sales team members led by Anthony. Our outside sales team members are actually coming to visit with you. And they're talking with you. And by the way, we know that the first time we come in and if somebody's doing business with somebody else, it may take a few visits, but sooner or later, a couple of things happen. It clicks in the customer's head that, hey, this guy or gal is actually genuinely interested in building a relationship and earning my business. And when I do give them a call, they do a good job and work hard to get it. And that's how if you don't have the first call, you move up the list. And that's something we're looking at. We view Main Street Pro as a very important growth segment. It's huge, it's fragmented. And by the way, if you think about that fragmentation, where we have our footprint then puts us in good stead to compete for that business, in particular because of the market hubs. So it's bringing that full circle, right? So market hubs increase availability, which increases the probability you have it for first call or otherwise. Add to that good service from our outside sales team members and our inside sales team members, our CPPs, and that's a recipe to move up the call list or to sustain your position. By the way, because where you are first call, your first call because consistently you're able to answer it with a yes, I have that product and I can get it to you in a time frame that works for you.
When you talk about saying yes to customers more frequently, I think you may have maybe taken words out of your mouth even. What has to happen across the whole Advance Auto Parts organization to turn that into measurable results? Craig, you're the CEO of the business. There's a lot. It's easy to say, hey, we want to say yes to customers more frequently. Okay, how does that happen? How do you execute that in your organization?
So there's a few things that are relevant here, and I'll draw on an Army analogy. When a drill sergeant first looked at my kit and took a canteen that I thought was dry and turned it upside down, and there was a couple drops of water in it. And you think that was a huge issue, but when you're new I'm
going to interrupt you for one moment. For the benefit of our audience, you are a graduate of West Point Academy, is that right?
Yes, class of 1990.
Class of 1990, and how long were you in the military?
7.5 years after that.
Got it. And then you graduated from sort of an unknown business school called Harvard Business School?
I went there.
Anyway, so I think it's important remind the audience of your background. So your Army analogy.
So a little water in the canteen, and that could be a big deal. But the lesson, which I still have to this day, is you inspect what you expect, and expect what you inspect. So if I'm not looking at it, it's hard to expect everybody else in the company to be looking at something. And this is a long-winded way of saying, come up with clear metrics that can be measured and published and that people can be held accountable for. And then you will start to drive change in that direction. And so we're doing those things. And so back to those 3 pillars we talked about, right place, right parts, right place, right service, what those break down to is merchandising excellence, supply chain, and store operations. And in these areas, we have 3 key metrics, and we've started to talk about these publicly, so you can see them in our earnings statements, where we are steadfastly measuring our progress against them. So one is time to serve. So we talked about it already. So we've taken out 10 minutes in time to serve because we're measuring it and we're putting focus, right? We're inspecting what we expect. And here's what we found. This is an interesting anecdote. We can't tell our people to exceed the speed limit and race to the customers. That's not a way you compress the time. But what we do find is an order comes in for a pro customer and maybe a team member is out facing product in the front room. And they're receiving in the delivery from the truck. Both important tasks. but a standing order from a pro customer who's got a car on a lift trumps it. So creating the focus that there's immediacy anytime an order drops and compressing any wait time to pick it in the store, that's one of the ways that we took some of the time out. So again, we created a metric, put focus on the metric, then taught people how we measure it and why it's important and what activities will drive improvement, like the one we're talking about, and then you start to see the improvement in there. We're doing that across each of those areas we talked about, and we're seeing improvement in our key metrics in a meaningful way. And by the way, that's what contributed to getting to a positive comp and getting to positive operating income.
Inspect, expect.
Yeah.
Expect, inspect.
Yeah. Yeah,
I love it.
It seems trite, but there's real meat behind it, and so that's a component. Second is having leaders who are capable of driving that change and selecting leaders below them and culturally doing it in the right way. So if that field first perspective, I also look for leaders with humility, right? So this isn't about creating showcase moments for spotlights. This is rather about working in a cross-functional manner. And this is increasingly important in business today. I think if you go back a couple of generations ago, each silo could kind of do its thing. But today, especially where technology often underpins things across areas, you have to work with your brother and sister functions to get things done.
You do.
And so we're looking for leaders who can do that, which is really important. So you have a good strategy, and then you get the people right. And the people is a function of not only that cross-functional nature, not only leading with humility, keeping that frontline first perspective, celebrating the wins, and then quietly admonishing and driving the change where we're not getting the impact that we should.
In my experience in today's world, if you're comfortable just working in a silo and not interfacing with others, you're going to be very challenged. You've just got to interface and play in the sandbox with people, right?
Yeah, and I'll give you a great example where we're bringing that to light. We're working on our POS system in terms of how we think about POS for the future. And if you think about, you not only need IT, by the way, is there AI playing a component there? You've got to certainly have all of your supply chain and inventory team members because they provide the information about the availability. You got to think about a store team member and their training and their ability to learn that system. And I think in today's world, customers have high expectations. They just don't want to come in and have a product rung up. They often want to hear more about the product. And in many cases, you can envision sort of turning the POS around to explain what's going on to the customer. So they see the part, they see the transparency on the price they're getting charged. And so to bring about any large scale project, you're going to go across functions and you just have to have people who can do that effectively.
So Shane, when obviously you're a publicly held company, there's 4 publicly held major auto parts organizations, oftentimes in Wall Street. Of course, this is no surprise. You listen to what is spoken in Wall Street and talking heads. They talk about the big 4, maybe the big 2. What is your view of all that? You've clearly done some great stuff in the last 18 months. And what would be your response to the big 2, big 4 conversation?
Oh, well, we're a big company. So we're pushing $10 billion in sales. So there's nothing small about how we operate. And if you look at the number of locations, with independents, we come close to 5,000 locations where you can buy our products. So there's no concern here that Advance is somehow a subscale organization. So we're certainly big enough to be in the mix in this industry or arguably in any industry. And so that's an important point. The second is dispelling any notion that there's a zero-sum game methodology in terms of how the inventory works, how the industry works. So our aftermarket industry, I'll call it roughly 160 billion, give or take. I don't know what number what you use. Go add up the sales for those big 2, 3, 4, and what do you get to? You don't even get to 50% of the market.
Right.
So there is runway aplenty for Advance Auto Parts to be successful without having it to come explicitly at the expense of any of the other organizations. And I think that's a really important point. There's fragmentation. The third thing I'll say is the conduct and sort of history of the industry, number of vehicles on the road, the miles driven, the prospects for the future. This is a growth business in terms of where it's going forward. Electric vehicles haven't proved to be the huge boogeyman that people thought they were. So you have great industry backdrop, fragmented industry, still top 4 players, under 50% of the market, Advance at 5,000 locations, give or take, inclusive of independents, Advance at sufficient scale to be able to affect and execute against key policies, all bode really well for where we're going. There's room at the end, so to speak, and we're excited in particular, and we've talked about this externally, much of our success in the short term comes solely from being able to do things entirely under our control and not with requirement from competitive or market pluses or minuses. Case in point, consolidating the DC network. Case in point, getting our store footprint right. Case in point, as we looked at our availability of our products. Case in point, being able to open NSOs. Case in point, introducing market hubs. Those are all things that it doesn't matter what any other player is doing in the industry. We know if we do these things, we'll get better and we will see better results. And from the progress we've made thus far, we have seen improved results. So really excited about where we can go at Advance Auto Parts and early days in the journey relative to what we can do long term.
Sure, and on the blended box program, do you weight that WEIGHT versus the Pro versus the DIY? Is that, where is that your ultimate goal for that?
Yeah, so we sit about 50-50, and I think that's important. And by the way, that number can breathe either way. I think DIY in general in the industry is viewed as a little bit more profitable because pros are typically going to say, hey, work with me a bit on price.
Sure. Well, they got the volume too.
And I think that if I just look societally, I think that the pro side of the house probably stands to grow at a faster rate. And I only say that because when I was a kid, auto shop was part of what went on in school.
Sure.
You don't see auto shop as prevalently. Kids today don't, wrench on cars. And by the way, even where they might have an interest, go ahead and do an ADAS calibration because your alignment's out. I mean, the sophistication of the equipment you need and the engine and car you're working on have gone up. That creates some barriers to entry. So I think Pro probably grows a bit faster, and we want to be participating in that. So could we end up leaning a little bit more pro-centric, but not because we're disinterested in either. We want both pro and DIY business.
Yeah, tough for a DIYer to do an ADAS calibration.
Yeah, no one's doing that. But here's what we are seeing. As some of the consumers have faced some headwinds with inflation and $4 gas is out there, we're seeing people come into the stores and say, hey, I'm going to change my oil. It's my first time doing it. What do I need? And we love that. We love to be able to help people on their first journey. And we talk about what a crush washer is and why you need it. Because there's some folks who I think would just unscrew the cap and put a few quarts in and say, like filling up the car with gas.
Right.
And so, but you could see the gears are spinning because if you were going to other places where an oil change can be pretty expensive these days. The idea that you can come to us and we always have great bargains, both with the branded products, think Mobile, Shell, Valvoline, Castrol, but also on our Argos brand. You can pick up an oil and filter at a great price. We'll help you with the rest if you need the drain pan, and off you go. We're seeing a lot of people say, hey, I'm going to try this now.
So as you look at the outlook for Advance in the aftermarket overall, right, what do you see for the next 6 months? So for the end of 26, and what does your crystal ball say for 2027?
Yeah, so never been...
And feel free to talk beyond that too.
Yep. Never been more excited about where we sit as a company than I am today. And we have an annual meeting every year. 2,000 people came this year, hundreds of GMs, and to see the initiatives now starting to take hold. Those 3 pillars, the inverted pyramid, seeing people really subscribe to what's going on in the company. We have a lot of statured veterans who've just, they've been hanging on. And I had people come up and say, it feels like we're really making it go this time. And by the way, one of the things we did is we went back to Advance's legacy cultural underpinnings and expressed through Inspire, Serve, Grow, and we've rolled that out as well. And so taking a little bit, we say going backwards a little bit to go forwards, which has also been really well received. But what we're seeing is this tremendous subscription internally of people saying, hey, I want to be part of that. So that means when it comes to inspecting what you expect or driving through change, you're getting people who are now saying, I'm in, I want to do this. I've now seen enough evidence that we're going in the right direction. Okay, so to your question, how does it manifest? We put out guidance for the year. So if you look at our guidance, midpoint for sales guidance for the year is 1.5% on the comp side of the house. So that's an improvement over what we did. So continuing to drive forward. And then on the bottom line, operating income, we've put out midpoint of guidance at 4.1%. So last year was 2.5. So one of the things that I think is important that we're tempering people is that we didn't get here in a minute, and we won't race out of here in a minute doing these major tectonic plate movements like consolidating supply chains. By the way, infusing merchandising excellence, improving time to serve, improving availability. I think really important. Our in-store availability went from low 90s to now high 90s. So the chances of the product being there has gone up, those new SKUs. All of those things take time, but we're now starting to do so from changing a trajectory that had been on a negative slope to now a neutral slope to a positive slope, now building on that positive slope. So that's what we see depicting for the year. We haven't put out guidance beyond that, other than we think aspirationally getting to 7% over the coming years feels like a good intermediate target for the company. That's in terms of operating income, and that's something we'll look to do. So think about it as getting better, a little better each day. By the way, staying on strategy, being willing to make tough calls, create a good culture where people feel like they're part of something, have leaders in the seat who lead from the front, and those are all sort of cumulative steps going on behind the scenes to make that happen.
In the aftermarket in general?
I love being part of the aftermarket.
I mean, it's a huge industry that hangs in there and hangs in there, right?
Well, it's $162 billion.
Yeah.
I think particularly interesting on what happened with electric vehicles. You've actually seen a decline in terms of what their percentage looks like. The fact that Americans love to drive, and I think it's just sort of a staple part of our society, is that the American road trip, or and I think about my own experience growing up, the freedom of being able to get in your car and go do things that are important to you, inside and outside of work and family and friends. I just think that continues to be. The other thing is, and we touched on this earlier, I was working the counter the other day, a guy comes in and says, hey, I need an oxygen sensor for a 2003 Honda Accord. So I remember where I was in 2003, but what I didn't put together is, hey, that's a 23-year-old vehicle.
Right.
Like, we're in 2026, and
right.
people are regular coming in to fix a car that's 23 years old.
Yes.
And so that's what the aftermarket is here for. So that guy who's keeping that Honda Accord running, that we've got parts for, and the idea that people are keeping cars longer and driving more. By the way, new cars today, I think I read a piece, $50K. Give or take, for the average cost of a new car in America. So it stands to reason that keeping that Honda Accord going is a good thing. And I think you're going to see Americans, they're certainly going to buy cars, and I think that's important. But I also think they recognize that they can keep them longer. And as they do so, we want to be the partner they think of to help do that.
Well, there's no question, as cars get more expensive, that's good for the aftermarket.
Yeah.
And if you don't live in New York, Chicago, maybe Boston, maybe San Francisco, you need your car to live your life. Public transportation isn't fantastic in the U.S., right?
It depends on the city.
Depends on the city, right?
Yep.
But it's certainly not universal.
No, not in the way that you would see in, say, Europe.
Right.
But the geography of the United States is immense.
It is.
And so people in America, I talk to folks on our team who regularly will drive 30, 40, 50 miles as part of their daily commute.
Absolutely.
And you do that in Europe, and you could be in the next country depending on where you're at.
Sure.
So
speaking a different language.
Yes, yeah, with a different currency. Although the euro has done a lot for that.
So it is as you may remember, we do something at the end of these interviews called lightning round.
Oh, I love. Okay, what are we gonna do?
So I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
And you're going to give me a quick answer.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What do you feel is one of the most important character traits in business?
Humility. Yeah, quick answer there. You've got to be able to check your ego at the door, find what's important, and focus on that without concern for personal reward and recognition. Do things for the right reasons for a business. And that's where success comes from. And I think people sometimes get that backwards, and it's all about hey, what's in it for me? And I want to see my name in lights versus, what are the real problems here that need to be fixed?
I think I know the answer to this one. Early riser or night owl?
Oh, I could do both, but I get up early. Yeah.
I knew that.
Yeah.
You're a military guy,
Yeah.
man. You get up at 3:30 or something. If you have a free weekend, what do you like to do?
Oh, be with my family. Yeah, sure. And by the way, whatever it is that they've got going on, and that can be going to an athletic event, that can be going out to eat, that can be going to visit other relatives or friends, but time with family, very precious to me. And I think about the commitment that this job takes.
Right.
So I want to make sure that I fence time with my family, and if I have disposable time, that's where it's going to go. And they know that, and they know that they're important.
Do you have any hobbies you wish you had more time for?
I'd like to be a better driver, interestingly. So we sponsor the 12 car, and I spent time with Ryan Blaney. If you ever watch anybody who's a pro driver, their skills, their reaction time, their coordination, it's really it's off the charts. And so if I ever had sort of a side hobby doing something like that, not on their scale obviously, but just at a local track. And then I think importantly, if you have time, taking care of your own physical well-being is important too. Finding some sort of exercise or outlet, right? Religion can be important. You can do, you have a sort of group of friends, but having different outlets, I do value those things as well.
Last one. Favorite type of cuisine?
Italian, I'm going to go with, is my short answer. If you said, hey, you can expand a little bit, I'm going to add Mexican to it.
Oh, Kelly, I'm expecting like corned beef and cabbage or something.
That's a misnomer that the Irish all run around looking for corned beef and sandwiches. They're not that good. It's not. I mean, the fact that wouldn't you rather have like fresh meat versus?
Of course I would.
Yeah,
of course I would.
So that came, I think, more from necessity and circumstance than people really saying, hey, that's what I want. And it's interesting in St. Patrick's Day, everybody's like, let's have corned beef and cabbage sandwich, and I say, have at it.
Have at it.
I'll take the Italian or the Mexican anytime. So
Shane, it's great to have you on AMN Drive Time, sponsored by
Oh, so good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.